And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brendan Deek. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Would also be greatly appreciated. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles today. And who else to do it with than my friend, Thomas Petersen. Thomas, it's been a while. How are we doing?
We're doing great. We're doing 10-1.
10-1, baby. It's a good feeling. It is a good
It is
feeling.
a good feeling. It is a good feeling. I know there's a lot of nervousness around it. I mean, you and I, we've been talking about it throughout the past couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
how it's been looking. So, I mean, kind of a nervous feeling for a 10-1 team, but overall, I mean, there's not too much to be displeased about.
You're right. It's kind of got like the Eagles are 10-1. I feel like it should be more happier vibes surrounding the team. Like there's one loss to the Commanders on Sunday night. Was it Monday Night Football? Was it? And it was kind of like everything had to go right for the Commanders for them to win. It's you're bang on with that. And I'm part of the. I feel like I'm part of the problem. I don't feel like they're 10-1.
Now, then you had the Colts game right after, which was a
Yeah.
grind to get back in the game and get anything going offensively.
Mhm.
Then we'll get to the Packers game here in a bit, but then you get that game where it's just totally flipped upside down, where you see some consistency issues that's been there. We'll get into the special teams and stuff,
Mhm.
but I mean, you just kind of have flips. So it's like they're winning in so many different ways, and some games it's really not looking pretty. Like the Cardinals game, for example, as well. Texans game, although the final score looked a little bit more over like convincing that it actually was.
Yeah, it was the first half of the Texans game, basically.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Thomas and I, it's been like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks since we've been on the mic. My kitchen upstairs is getting redone, so I am hunkered down in the little corner of the basement. That's why my background looks a lot different than
Looks
normal.
rocky. You have
Yeah,
guitars and everything back there.
yeah. And then they got like you can see like the coffee maker in the corner because we're
Oh
all
yeah.
living fully downstairs right now. And I've been on night shifts at the score for the last 2 weeks, which not a fan of night shifts, but happy to help out the company, of course. So it's been it hasn't been the funnest 2 weeks here at the Deke household, like that.
Well, I mean, to be honest, if you're gonna have like a renovation background, coffee machines and guitars, and I mean, it's not the best, like the worst thing to go
Well,
about it.
you see this little open spot here.
Yeah.
That's where the Washington Commanders memorabilia is because my dad's a diehard Washington fan.
Oh
And of course,
no.
I had to take that off the wall. I had to take off the signed Joe Gibbs picture. Who
Take it
else?
off, you mean burn it, right?
Yeah, basically, I should be. But hey, he lets me live in the house. I'm surprised he even lets me live here at this point because I'm surprised he even let me become an Eagles fan. It's he always used to tell like his like coworkers and friends that like I can't
Do you
believe like
think
my
do you
son's
think Washington fans actually try to make their kids Washington fans?
No, I'm so happy that I did not become one. That's one of the best
Right.
decisions I ever made.
I mean, if you made the commitment to the team, it's like I'm in it because it's been for so long, but I would never wish it upon my worst enemy. That's how
No.
I feel like Washington fans must feel like.
If you were born in my dad's era, like when my dad was growing up through the 80s and
Yeah.
90s, that would have been fun. They were like one of the best teams of football. They were like the talk of the town. And then once Dan Snyder bought the team in 1992, it's been all hell since. And I was born in 1995, so thank the Lord I did not become a Washington Commanders fan. Becoming an Eagles fan was
Yeah.
definitely a good choice.
Disgraceful ever since.
Yeah. Alrighty, so you brought up the Packers game. I think that's a good place to start. We put our thoughts out into the verse about what we thought about that game. Kind of maybe last minute thoughts before we transition to the Eagles Titans on Sunday. You broke down the film. You put up some clips on Twitter and whatnot. Just kind of give me your overall vibe from what you thought about that game.
Right. So overall vibe from the game, I think was pretty good. Like we've been talking about back and forth about how night games near Denmark is like 2:30 a.m. That's when they start. This one I was particularly zombie like. I was just sitting there with a cup of coffee, like with a zombie look on my face, and I couldn't get excited about anything, and I couldn't get down on anything. It was just the same mood for the entire game, and I think that was kind of good because you had really up and down like roller coasters throughout the game.
Yeah.
Like starting out like lightning and thunder with a touchdown drive and the interception and a touchdown again, and boom, you're up 2 scores immediately. And then the drive with the weird 2 QB sneaks where one isn't a handoff and gets turned over on downs. And so defense really like they let Packers drive down the field on the first drive. Then they get the ball back. Packers do at what Eagles 35, 40-yard line. So they have a short field. And I really like the way that the Eagles offense just kept responding to the way the Packers were trying to get back in the game, because they got down that like at that point 14-13, and then Eagles come out and they have a massive drive, long drive down the field to go back on top, and really go up 2 scores again on them before they actually try to get back in there. And then they get back, of course, and it's a 1-score game, and Jalen Hurts just come out again, field goal drive, touchdown drive, field goal drive, and he keeps chewing up clock. So when Jordan Love came in the game and he had that, was it his second or third pass? That was when Josiah Scott got beaten man coverage, and Reed Blankenship had a terrible situation where he had to take an angle inside of a receiver that was crossing deep, and Christian Watson goes down the field and scores. That took 2 minutes, and you're like, shit. I mean, we can't feel safe at any point in this game. You go up 2 scores, defense let them back in. Go up 2 scores again, defense let them back in. And then it's a 1-score game, and you needed the offense to go down there and either score a field goal or a touchdown to make it a 2-point, because you just had that feeling that the defense can't do anything in this game. It was kind of the opposite with the Colts game last week.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest takeaway is they won on offense this game. They won on defense the game before.
Right, exactly. And I think that was the biggest takeaway from that game. Jalen Hurts balled again. I mean, he won them that game. And
he was
really,
the best player on the field.
he was best player on the field. And his passing completion was around that 57%. I'm like, doesn't tell the story at all about what was going on in the game. I mean, he was accurate. He was making really good decisions, and then he broke Michael Vick's franchise rushing record on top of that.
I've been very active against the Jalen Hurts haters this week. They've been pissing me off.
I mean, I'm starting to get to a point where I'm thinking they're just bots. I mean,
I don't what pisses me off about it is I don't understand why people who don't like Jalen Hurts think running the football, his ability to run the football, is bad. Like, it's such a valuable asset to the team. Like, his ability to escape the pocket and create plays with his legs is not a bad thing, guys. Like, you don't have to always get a first down by throwing the ball 12 yards on a 3rd and 10. That's not how football works.
And the amount of times that he's been converting 3rd and 7 or more, he converted to 3rd and 12 in that game as well against the Packers as well. Took it down 40 yards.
Like, he was awesome on picking up first downs. Like, how many those big runs, like those 2 big runs in the first half changed the game. Like, you don't have those runs, they don't win the football game. Like, sorry, he didn't throw it 50 yards. Him running 50 yards and throwing 50 yards is the fucking same thing. Like, I don't understand why people can't be like happy and amazed by how athletic he is and how his ability to escape fucking create plays. He's such a good playmaker.
That's a good point.
He's the best playmaker on the team. So let him do what he does best.
Exactly. And I mean, the same people are probably pleased that Miles Sanders is rushing for $140 yards from whatever he did in the Packers game. Well, newsflash, Miles Sanders isn't a good running back if he doesn't have Jalen Hurts running the football, because that takes away defenders from the box. I mean, the way the defenses are shifting their focus and having to play defensive end hard reading on Jalen Hurts opens up so many things in those backside gaps in the zone running scheme. When you're having these QB powers or read powers as they are, he still has the option to give it to the running back if they're overcommitting to that power side. He still has the option to give it to Miles Sanders, and he can run for 10 yards, and then Miles looks good, but really it's a product of the whole offensive design around what a threat Jalen Hurts is. And the most amazing thing, like sticking with Jalen Hurts there, the big picture thing, talking about how you can't be amazed after watching him 11 games in this season. He's a top 10 passer, maybe top 12 passer in the NFL if you're pessimistic. But on top of that, he's one of the best runners there is in the league, running backs and quarterbacks included. And he's so smart with it. Yeah, like he isn't a reckless runner like a Justin Fields is, where you're just waiting for an injury to happen.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. He doesn't take hits. Like, look at the Josh. I don't know if you watched any Thursday Night Football last night.
Yeah, I did.
Look, Josh Allen took so many hits last night.
He's jumping over lines and taking massive hits for 2 yards.
Josh Allen's a great runner, but the difference between, and Lamar Jackson's really good at this too. I think Lamar and Jalen Hurts are really good at just avoiding contact. Like, that's why Lamar Jackson's been fairly healthy his entire career. Jalen Hurts, so far, knock on wood, has been very healthy his entire career. So that's an underrated aspect. Back to Miles Sanders. I thought this was the best Miles Sanders has looked his entire career as an Eagle.
Agreed.
I thought he ran really well. Like
He did.
I went back and watched the first half. I wasn't able to go back and watch the full game, but man, like the way he was able, like he had second gears on a lot of his runs. He was bouncing off guys. He ran the ball really hard, and I think he deserves a ton of credit. He played awesome.
Yeah, and the thing that really stood out, and I can tell you the second half was the same thing as the first, so you got that 100% right, was that he made plays despite the offensive line
Mm-hmm.
having to maneuver or kind of like Isaac Zamaro gets beat on a play where Jordan Mailata is pulling, so Jordan hits that guy, and suddenly Miles Sanders is 1-on-1 in a natural situation. He makes the
Yeah,
guy miss and gets 7 yards. Like that's perfect. That's exactly what
he
you want.
he like this wasn't the product of the Eagles' offensive line. Like this was him playing very well. Like I think
This was the product of the Eagles' offensive line on top of the running back who was
yeah.
making plays himself, and that just shows you how dominant that can look.
Have you seen, I don't know if I should be bringing this up. Have you seen the video of Miles Sanders that's going around the well not of Miles Sanders,
No,
but
no, I haven't paid any attention. I saw the headline. I was like, nah.
you should watch it. I'm gonna send it to you. It's pretty funny.
Give me
Whatever that
the
girl.
give me the short sentence about what happens there.
Okay, so a girl. I don't know. This is the best conversation, but a girl put on
Keep it
TikTok
short.
like so. A girl put on TikTok like it was something like this is what it's like being some an NFL player's sneaky link. I think sneaky link's like side piece or whatever, and it's like DMs of Miles Sanders like asking for sex and whatnot like late at night and.
Okay.
It's entertaining. I gotta say, but I don't
Weird
want
to
to.
share that.
Yeah, I'll put. I work at a company that would not like me putting that on my social media, so I
All
did not
right.
want to
Go
put it out
DM me
there.
that.
All for you. I think maybe this is all up your alley. I think this video is right up your alley. I'll send it to
Okay.
you if you want to put it out there. It's pretty entertaining. It's pretty funny. So I'll DM it to you when after
I
the
saw the
episode.
headline. I was like, nah, but now I can
Yeah,
hear it. I
it,
gotta get a read on that.
it's funny. But yeah, I know Miles Sanders just yeah, I don't want to get too much more into that conversation, but I just wanted to throw it out there. But yeah, Miles
Right.
Sanders has been he's been a different football player, in my opinion, over the last over I guess the entire year. Like going back to the Jacksonville Jaguars game, he was awesome. So I just think he deserves a ton of credit.
Right. But I think there was one play that pissed me off with Miles Sanders, and that was in the fourth quarter, second to last drive, where the Eagles were trying to move down the field, and like that was right after the Christian Washington long touchdown. So they really had to chew out the clock there. It's second down and 7, and they're running an outside zone, and he's out there in he has a wide receiver blocking. He's 1-on-1 against the DB. He has plenty of space to work with. And instead of cutting upfield and plowing through the DB, which you would expect him to do and get some more yards there and make it a third and short, he just ran out of bounds. And it stopped the clock, and they didn't get more than 2 yards in the play, set up 3rd and 5.
Mhm.
And nothing to say against him. He had a terrific game, but it's frustrating to still see those small. Like we saw it against the Colts as well, where he gets the ball in open field with 8 yards to work with, and he runs straight out of bounds. And he
Yeah,
doesn't pick up anything.
his
And
vision is still kind of off. Like
it's exactly it's really off. And just want to like all credit to Miles Sanders, great game from him. But right there on 3rd and 5, Kenneth Gainwell comes in with basically the game on the line there to make it a 2-score game, and he plows forward for 7 yards and picks up the first
yeah.
down. I mean, it's still a complimentary piece there with Miles Sanders. Just absolutely, he has to be like he's deserves to be the bell cow running back in this season. But I'm really liking what Kenneth Gainwell when he comes in late in games to basically just like he's told one thing: follow your blocks, plow through defenders, get as many yards as possible. Usually that leads to first downs.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the last 2 games in crunch time that Miles Sanders hasn't been on the field. Like if you go back to the Indianapolis Colts game,
I think you're right.
Boston Scott was the guy getting the carries at the end of that game, and then Kenneth Gainwell got the like you said those carries to kind of ice the game against the Packers. So I think coaches are kind of agreeing with what we're saying here. Is like his vision isn't always the best, and in those crunch time situations, you just need to get those additional yards to kind of put the game on ice. If you just take a look because I think one of the biggest maybe pinpoints on Miles Sanders and like throughout his career is he doesn't get like he's either like getting a 25-yard run or he's getting a negative or a minus 3-yard run. And I just don't think that's been the case this year. Like I think he's really worked on that. The Eagles are third in success rate on offense. Success rate is basically can you get over 2 yards per play. Eagles have it at 53%. and they were third in the NFL in Week 12 as well. So like they are not getting negative plays, and that's a huge credit to Miles Sanders. But we can move on from I guess the Sanders love. Are you worried about the defense at all in this game? Because I think big picture the defense and Jonathan Gannon probably is still one of my biggest worries with this team. But I don't really pinpoint it to the Packers game. I thought they were put in a bunch of tough spots. Like the special teams unit
Yeah, I
was
agree with you.
awful. I thought Aaron Rodgers made some just big time throws. I thought Jordan Love played really well. I think Matt
AJ
LaFleur,
Brown fumble.
yeah,
That
like
got up to the 15-yard line.
I wouldn't put this Packers game into like a consideration of the defense as a problem to more the big picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I put together all of the drives except for the last kneel down of the game for the Packers, and they had a starting field position of the Eagles 42-yard line of an average starting position on 10 drives. That's that's pretty good starting field position. So, I mean, just the AJ Brown fumble and the QB sneak situation there that fucked up. That's 2 drives where they're at the 15-yard line and the 30-yard line. I mean, of course they're going to score in those drives right there. So, I think it's not really. I agree with you. I think the bigger picture for the concerns moving forward should be the special teams from this game, because that was horrific.
What's wrong with it? Like, what's your take on this?
One thing is individual effort, like just not getting off blocks. Like whenever they're meeting blocks, not getting off it. But also have I spot a tendency of the 2 outside guys of the Eagles on both sides of
coverage, right?
Kickoff coverage, right? On both kickoff coverage on both of the reps where Packers returned it for 50+ yards. The 2 outside guys on both sides, they're kind of like they're slowing down relative to everyone else. And they're kind of seeking inside the field. So you have 2 layers of guys coming at him instead of everybody crashing down, and you have your gunners shooting for the runner and trying to make him, like, if he needs to make one guy miss at that point, then you have more time for everybody else to get down there and make the tackle. But it's kind of weird when you have these two set situations, because if the first line is missing, like if somebody's like jumping for a tackle or missing, then you have extra blockers for the second level, and then you're basically just waiting for like somebody at that slow group, if we can say that, to kind of adjust and then make the tackle at that point. I just thought it was weird, because usually what you see is that you want your gunners down there as fast as possible to kind of like shimmy the returner a little bit, so he doesn't have a free go at any shot. And then whenever he slows down, the rest of the guys just plug in all the gaps, and then you're trying to like contain it at that point. And primarily, I think it's like kickoff coverage has been the worst part. And at this point, I have no idea why they're not just like consistently trying to kick it like through the end zone and for touchbacks at all times.
Mm-hmm. I think this is more of like a personnel and player issue than more of like a Michael Clay issue. I think Michael Clay probably hasn't done a very good job. Like he's got to hold some sort of blame here. I think the team is kind of just built like this, like the way like how. If you're gonna have a bad unit, special teams is probably the unit to go with. And I don't think it's by design that the way the Eagles special team is bad. Like it shouldn't be this bad, but like they're not gonna have a rock star special teams unit with just the way the team's built. Like think about it. Like remember, like Malcolm Jenkins used to play special teams. Like all those guys, like a lot of like Eagles starters in the Doug Petersen era played special teams. These guys, like Marcus Epps doesn't play special teams. Like,
yeah, he does.
He does? Like, I don't think is he on kickoff?
He was on kickoff coverage on all of the plays that they gave up.
Okay. But majority
Sean Bradley and Kobe Dean. I mean, there's some guys on the special teams unit that should be able to run down and make tackles and shed blocks.
Last year, Andre Chachere was the best special teams player on the team. He has been injured. He's only played, so he's been there around the last 3 games. But like for majority of the year, he hasn't been there. Like I think this is more personnel built than just like I guess like a Michael Clay issue and like a format issue, if that makes sense. But it's got to get fixed. Like this is a problem in my opinion. Like this is a bigger issue than people think, because like a special teams play can change the game like that and snap of the finger. If the Eagles offense wasn't balling out last week, it could have been like this was a game where if everything had to go right for the Eagles offense for them to overcome this. Right? Like this isn't going to like if you consistently allow the opposing team to start at the 50, 45 yard line, you're going to get beaten. You're going to lose games that way. And like they're lucky it hasn't been for a touchdown yet, but even like starting getting field position 50-yard line in the in today's age of the NFL, you can't allow that to happen. And this has to get fixed. And you can even turn it back. I know this example's been thrown around a lot, but I'm just going to re-say it. Like, look at the Green Bay Packers last year against the San Francisco 49ers. They allow a block punt in the NFC Championship game. That's the game right there. Like, you don't want
Yeah,
to affect your team in the playoffs.
yeah, I agree. 100%. It's also going to be important, like moving to games like when we're playing Dallas on Christmas. They have a pretty good return there as well.
Yeah.
So
Okay, a couple
like,
more things on this game. I
okay.
thought the personnel was kind of weird. Not weird, but they had a lot of different personnel groupings. Did you notice this? Like they ran some 4 wide receiver sets, which they usually don't do, which I thought was kind of cool. They had Cam Jurgens, your boy, and
Oh
as a
yeah,
strong tight end.
I saw
At
that.
one point. Yeah, so I thought Nick Sirianni got pretty creative with how he's using his personnel and his personnel sets.
And they had to, like, looking back on the Colts game, that like the 2 tight end personnel, even the 3 tight end personnel they had in there, at times it just didn't work. I mean, it they're 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 realizing that they have a better receiving core out there when they're putting out guys like AJ, Devontae, Sack, and
Mhm.
Quez. Like, those are your playmakers. Those are the ones you have to rely on when guys like Goddard is out.
Okay, let's have the Robert Quinn discussion.
Oh yeah,
Have you taken a look at how many snaps he's playing?
I have not actually, but I
Okay,
think it's around the is it around 10% per game?
so in Chicago, he was averaging about 68% of the snaps. In his 5 games in Philly, Pittsburgh, he played 26%. Against Houston, he played 12%. Against Washington, he played 27%. In Indy, he played 15%. And against Green Bay, he played 22%. Um, I don't know what's going on here, but Robert Quinn is buried on this depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that when they traded for him. Like you weren't supposed to set the expectations for Robert Quinn to come in and be in the starting lineup. Like, he's a
But like
rotational.
12, are you like 20%? Like I was expecting like
I mean, he's not playing
40%.
better than a Brandon Graham or Hassan Reddick or a or a
Yeah,
Josh Sweat. So I mean,
I'm not saying like it's a bad thing. Like I think if he's not playing well, he doesn't just be on the field. I'm just like I'm kind of surprised. Like you traded a 4th round pick for the guy. I'm assuming Howie Roseman, like, hey, you gave up an asset, a 4th round pick. I'm assuming from the top down it'd be like give this guy at least 40% of snaps. So it's more of like maybe like I'm not worried, but I'm kind of shocked by this how it's kind of all played out. I thought he would have played at least 45% of snaps.
well, they also got in a situation where they had all the running games, like things going against them, like from the Texans game moving forward, Colts, Packers, and so they were more in the five man front situations, and they've been putting in Fletcher Cox at defense, like in at outside linebacker sometimes as well, and when they're in four man fronts, they've been putting in Fletcher Cox at five technique.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're rotating a lot of their defensive linemen in there, and with the additions of Sue and Linval, and especially when Jordan Davis is going to come back, I don't think Robert Quinn's snap count is going to go up. I think they want, and I think Howie wants. I don't think he gives a shit. Like they want the other guys in there because those are their best players. Like
Yeah.
Robert Quinn is a depth signing or a depth trade that hopefully you're not going to like need him too much. But in case that you're starting to have injuries on the offense, like on the defensive line, like say they didn't sign Sue or Linval, of course, like Robert Quinn would be playing 40% of the snaps as like in the past few games, but that's just not the case. And the way that teams are running against the Eagles and the way that they're like approaching them, I would much rather have like defensive tackles on the field than I would have
No, for sure.
Robert Quinn, even if that's on at outside linebackers and nine techniques.
It's a very interesting kind of just storyline to follow for the rest of the year, like just kind of how much he's playing because
And if
it
it's going
goes
to be needed, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um kind of reminds me of the Golden Tate a little bit.
Oh no.
Like a little no, the kind of like right. Remember like how much people were bitching about, and me included, how like little playing time and little touches Golden Tate was getting when they made that trade, right?
But they
Like
also needed a weapon at offense there. They
no,
traded
yeah,
for him and didn't
100%. And
use him.
Golden Tate, you can argue the 3rd round pick might have been too much, but he came up huge against Chicago in the double doink
Right.
game, right? So like he had the touchdown at the end, he made the big catch over the middle, so he was needed in the long run.
Right. But also, like, Robert Quinn just is like he's not like we said, this is not the Robert Quinn of old. Like, he's not the guy we've seen like he still has to bend around the edge, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. The strength just isn't there. You can kind of see it. He almost looks a little feeble out there. Like
He looks a little bit slow when the first
yeah,
thing doesn't go right for him.
yeah. Okay, one more conversation before we get into the Titans game. Safety. What do you do here? I think Reed Blankenship is probably the way to go, mixing some Kayvon Wallace if you want. I have a hard time believing they're going to make a move there, like sign anyone. Malcolm Jenkins, I'm pretty sure it's not coming. I don't know if there's anyone out there. The one name that I kind of was thinking about last night, and I threw it in my prep doc. Anthony Harris is on the Broncos practice squad right now. I can see Howie going to pick him from there. If let's say if problems arise this week, and maybe we'll see how long Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's out for. But
What about
Anthony
the
Harris,
other, like the former 49ers safety that was on the Eagles team?
Jaquiski Tart.
Yeah, Tart. Where's he at? Is
I
he
don't know.
free
I
agent?
think it's a free agent, so I don't know if anyone even
All right, so
picked
that's also an option out there. Like he's had some familiarities with the Eagles defense, so that's also an option if they
He is a free agent. He's not signed.
like as of right now, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson hasn't been placed on IR, so
Yeah,
that means that they're not like we'll see before like if he's not on IR and they start the Titans game, he is definitely playing within the next 3 games.
it's a scare. Like it's a painful injury. Like I've never had it, but it sounds and looks painful, right? Like
Yeah, and I
man,
also think it just like I think it was also like the basically the hit that he took. I mean, one thing is the laceration to the kidney. Of course, that's the big thing that you're looking at that point. But when you're having that kind of like that type of impact at an area right around the rib cage, like you're also going to have soft tissue like soft tissue soreness afterwards. So there's so many things that goes into that kind of hit that makes it extremely painful as it happens. But really good news that he hasn't been placed on IR yet. And yeah, I think you're right. Reed Blankenship definitely like coming off the bench and making plays like that against Aaron Rodgers and like in the running game as well, like being super physical, making tackles. Um, Kind of something to watch there at the end where he took a hit to the head. He hasn't been in concussion protocol, but he took a big hit to the head at the end of the game where he went out and Kayvon Wallace came in.
mm-hmm.
So we haven't heard anything about that.
He hasn't been on the
something
injury
to
report. He hasn't been on the injury report this week at all.
exactly, but it was enough for him to not be in the game at that point, and we'll see. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think they're going to add anybody if they don't put Chauncey on IR. If they do, like I think guys like Tart and Harris are probably the more likely guys to come back. Even though Malcolm Jenkins would be fun, but I don't see how he should be put back here, especially when the trade deadline over.
All right, Eagles Titans.
Ooh,
I'm
yeah,
pumped for this game, man. I think this is my favorite game. I've had my eye on this game for a long time. If you've been listening to the show, you know that I've been calling out this is like the perfect matchup for this team. I'm beyond excited to watch this game. So, and the Philadelphia Eagles are they at home this week?
Yeah, they're at home. Yeah,
They're at
it's
home.
at the
Okay.
link.
Yeah, at the link. Okay, so Eagles host the Tennessee Titans 1
Mhm.
o'clock on Sunday. We're gonna start. I want to start with just the juicy matchup. Eagles offense versus Tennessee Titans defense. I think this is probably
Naturally,
the matchup maybe of the week. Have you looked at the slate? Week 13 is awesome, by the way.
it's
It's
incredible.
stacked. Yeah, you got the Bengals and Chiefs. You got 49ers, Dolphins, Eagles, Titans. Like those are 3 unreal matchups. So I think Eagles offense versus Titans defense is probably just the biggest matchup out of any of the week 13 matchups on each side of the ball. So what do you
Sneaky
look?
underrated NFC matchup just to plug that in there. Commandos at Giants.
Yeah, I
Like
actually thought I was I thought they were gonna flex that game into Sunday night, but then I thought like a week ago I thought they were gonna put Commanders Giants there, and then I thought to myself, there's no way they're gonna flex the Cowboys out.
nah,
No, there's no Cowboys fans would just be pissed. You got to
you
get
always
that
get stupid ratings for some reason for the
Yeah.
Cowboys games.
Okay, what are you looking forward to in the Eagles offense for Titans defense?
So the natural thing, of course, is AJ Brown going against his former team.
Revenge game, baby.
Yeah, but I have a sneaky feeling that it isn't going to be as big of a focus point as we think. Like I don't think it's going to blow the screens off. I don't think he's going to have like a massive day. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't see that happening. I think the Eagles are going to try to stay a lot with the running game as they did. The Titans have maybe the best coach team in the NFL. If you heard like the Kelsey brothers podcast and the New Heights podcast, you heard Travis Kelce talk like after the Titans game. It's like there's something different about playing the Titans. It like hits are just harder. You feel the hits more when you're playing Mike Rabel teams. Because I mean, it's just always more physical. Um, and I have an idea that that Rabel, this team, the defense they're going against here, like if there's going to be one team that really moves Jalen Hurts off of his spot and gets him into bad tendencies, this would be it.
Yep. That's what I've been kind of saying. When we were talking before the Eagles even lost, I said this was a game that I had marked on the calendar for the first game for the Eagles to lose. Of course, they've already lost the game, but Mike Vrabel is going to cause Jalen Hurts problems. And just taking a look at kind of the matchup from the run game standpoint, which I do believe that they're going to still try to run the football against this Titans team, but the Titans defense is second in rush EPA per play on defense. They do not allow P teams to run the football against them. Like that's just them and the Rams. Or the Rams are first, but I think the Titans are second. It's a close second, and there's a big drop off from 2 to 3 in EPA rush defense. And the Eagles are first in rush EPA offense. So it's like two Goliaths.
I was about to say,
colliding.
Brenton,
Like,
when do we ever learn DVOA and EPA does not matter when you're going against a hot Eagles rushing offense? If they
yeah.
hit the day, I don't care what your analytics say about your run defense. You're going to get smoked.
So what I think they should do and how I think they should attack the run game is get onto the edges. I don't think you're going to be able to run up the middle on this Titans defense.
Ooh, Jeffrey Simmons hasn't been practicing though. Did you see that?
So that's one thing I didn't want to talk about. I was going to focus that on the Eagles defense, but there's some injuries on the Titans that you want to keep an eye on. So Jeffrey Simmons hasn't been practicing. Ben Jones is back at practice after suffering a concussion, so he's been playing he's been full participant the last 2 weeks. Now he is one of the best centers in the NFL. So we're going to the other side. Aaron Brewer would be the backup center. He struggled since he's filled in for Ben Jones. So I'm curious to see if Ben Jones even starts. But yeah, if Jeffrey Simmons can't go, I'm really curious to see what the Friday injury report is going to look like. He's been a do not participate the last 2 games. So like that's a good sign that he might not play. But even Tyler Tart in the middle, like that's a matchup that's going to cause Jason Kelce some problems. He's a bully. Jason Kelce is the best center in the league this year, probably one of the best offensive linemen in the league this year. But we all know what causes him issues is bigger, stronger guys, and that's a tier Tart and Jeffrey Simmons are. Like if those two are on the field, those are kind of bad, I guess, quote unquote, bad matchups for Jason Kelce. But I think the Eagles should be getting to the edges. Get those sweep runs out, get the offensive lineman on the move, because the Titans in the box, they're very good, but you can attack them on the edges and get to the outside. And that's where I would focus the run game on. And I think Nick Sirianni in the Eagles, Nick Shanksike are going to know that. I don't expect a lot of up the middle runs in like duo runs. Like they do run quite a bit of duo and up the middle attacks. I don't think you're going to see that in this game.
No, and they haven't actually been running that too much this week. Like the past few weeks, like they've had a lot of tendencies to go to the power in their offense in the past few weeks here, and especially like you said, like Jason Kelce has his weaknesses in terms of going against like much bigger defensive tackles, but the strength is that he rarely does that because like you have a rushing offense and a guy like Jeff Stoutland who knows how to utilize his player strength, and so Jason Kelce, when going up against big defensive tackles, he's rarely actually blocking those defensive tackles. It's always a down block from either the right or left guard. And then Kelce just kind of pulls either way. So it rarely does he actually end up in those single blocks. And I agree with you that a way that you can get away from that is basically use the athleticism of your offensive line and get a little bit more to the perimeter. I don't know if I would go like more off tackle runs. I think I'll just go more like aiming B gap like they did against the Packers because that was dominant.
Yeah. So Denico Autry's also been kind of banged up. I don't know if he's going to fully play. He's their will linebacker. David Long Jr., the middle linebacker, is having a hell of a season. He's been one of the best linebackers in football. So that's a guy, again, I'd want to stay away from. And he's going to be really good at kind of reading Jalen Hurts' zone reads, right? Like, I don't know how many zone read you're going to see, right? The Titans are very good at kind of clobbering that up. So I'm super curious to see how the Eagles attack this run game. And again, like you said, I don't think they're going to go away from it. Like, they're not going to just not run the ball. Like they're not gonna be scared. They under Nick Sirianni, they've never been scared of running the football down team stars. They did it against the Saints, right? Like they ran all over the Saints. The best rushing defense in the league going into that game. So I don't expect them to just not do it. Like they're gonna
Nah, the worst thing we've seen is that when they tried to substitute the rushing offense with like a primarily like screen passing offense, and we like that hasn't really been working too much.
Yeah,
Like maybe
I don't really want. I'm hoping they don't go to like that Arizona.
exactly.
Like, remember the Arizona Cardinals game? They ran like they had 13 screen passes to
It was
wide receivers
horrible.
in that game, and that was the most in the NFL. I'm hoping, but again, I do think they need to attack the edges, so there has to be a middle ground there, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
agree. Yeah.
Other matchups that like the AJ Brown, I know you're saying it's not going to be a big point of emphasis. I kind of disagree there. I think the AJ Brown revenge game is going to it's going to have juice. I
Yeah.
think it's a really cool storyline. And
I think it's something we're going to hear a lot of in the start of the game. In the second half, it will basically
yeah,
be
of course,
forgotten.
that's the way most storylines go. But
No, I mean, like if he keeps catching touchdown after, like if he has like a Pittsburgh Steelers game, of course, it's going to continue going throughout the game. But I'm expecting like a not so explosive performance from the Eagles offense here, like just naturally with the team they're going against and the way that Titans are playing football. So I think it's going to be like more toned down a little bit simply because of Eagles not being as effective on offense as maybe some of the other games they've been playing.
I think the Eagles wide receivers can win this matchup, and I think they should be able to do it pretty not easily. But the Titans corners are Roger McCreary and Christian Fulton. McCreary is a second round rookie who's playing pretty well this year, and Christian Fulton's played pretty well. But I think that's the mismatch that you want to try to attack here is Devonta Smith and AJ Brown against those two cornerbacks.
I
And
disagree. This is the Quest Watkins game.
okay, yeah, no,
Because
like we could throw Quez Watkins in there.
no, but I mean, like they've been switching more focus to him, and I think if there's one thing that's really good, like Kristen Fulton and Roger McCreary, not streaky cornerback. Like if they can get your hand on you there, at the line, they've both been really susceptible to speedy receivers, going dating all the way back to college, and Quest Watkins is doing that better like than anyone on the team right now.
Touchdowns in his last two games. Watkins has been
Exactly,
great.
should have had 3 in the last 3 games, but
Yeah, fuck.
But I think they're gonna have like more of this Quest Watkins type game again with like 50, 60 yards and a touchdown. I think it's gonna be a factor.
And the Titans do like to play a lot of like juiced up boxes, right? So you could get some nice matchups on the slot if you put Quez
Oh yeah,
Watkins.
about that. Eagles need to fix their 7-man protections. It's been horrific. Like
Really?
every time they go into 7-man protections with 2 or 3 routes, it's been horrible. Like we're talking the Quest Watkins.
There was a play where Quez Watkins and Grant Calcaterra were the two guys on a 2-man route against
That's the one where Jalen Hurts got like 50 yards off a scramble.
Yeah, we ended up working out. I was just like, what's going on here? Why are those two guys the two guys going out in the route? But
And they've been doing that for so long. Like usually you have like one of those plays, 2 of those plays per game. They're just going to max protection. The problem is the protection never holds up. There's always miscommunication, and somebody gets to Jalen Hurts, and it's super frustrating because the play is literally designed to take a shot downfield.
Mhm.
And the same way with the Packers, but except this time, this was the first time that it worked. Week 12, first time it works, and it's because Jalen Hurts is escaping out the pocket and picking up yards himself.
Anything else on the Eagles offense versus Titans defense that you want to pinpoint? I think we covered.
No, I think we've done pretty much.
Okay, other side of the ball, Eagles defense versus Titans offense. I think this is a matchup that they should be able to win. I think the game's going to be. I don't know if the game's going to be decided here, but there's one name, and it's pretty obvious who they can't let beat you, and that is big guy Derrick Henry.
Ryan Tannehill. Wait, what?
Cannot. You got to shut this guy down. You cannot let this guy get to the second level. You can't let him get to your linebackers. Can't let him get to your secondary. This is where the game's going to be won. It's kind of drilled in my head, this scenario, and I keep overthinking it. I think it's not a likely scenario, but a plausible scenario where Derrick Henry just ruins this game for the Eagles. Like you can't allow that to happen.
That could very much happen.
Yeah. Like he is so good, and he's playing lately. The last couple of games, he hasn't been awesome, but like he's had some like 150-yard run games this year. Like he's still capable of pulling that off, even at this age.
Right.
And they got to stop him. The Titans' rushing attack has been actually not that efficient this year. Just from the numbers, they're 24th in rush EPA per play. So it's not like this Titans team has been like awesome running the football. They just run it a lot. Like
Yeah, and you have like
they're
two things to go into that. I mean, you have
yeah.
the last 3 games, Derrick Henry has been shut down to below 3 yards per carry,
Yep.
but also we all know like the stats from Derrick Henry in December are just incredible. Like he
Yeah.
pops off in December. That is where he really starts.
He's meant to run at the link in December. Like that's what he's meant
Exactly.
to do.
So that's really also like where you go into a game like this. But this is the like show me you can do it game. Like you have this well coached team in the Titans. You've been playing a bunch of like pretty bad teams for a long time now, like dating back to what the like Vikings, and so like you got to show us that you can win against against good teams here, and we know, and everybody knows that the weakness of the Eagles defense is their rush defense. So show us that you can actually do it against one of the best.
Do you think Jordan Davis is going to play?
Yeah,
I do
I think
too.
he's going to be
I think
activated.
he's going to play. Yeah, I think they'll have him back. I don't know how much he'll play, but I do think he's going to come back.
I think he's going to rotate with Linval, and it's going to
Yeah,
be pretty.
I'm looking forward to these odd man fronts. They're going to be living in odd man fronts going forward. Like this is the way that they're built, right? Like you
Yeah, they
don't
have to.
yeah, like you're gonna see a ton of 3 and 5 man fronts, which I like. Like I hate Gannon's 4 man front. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I hate seeing it. Don't want to see it.
Nope.
Live in odd man fronts. I know it's
Yep.
hard, but figure it out because I can't stand the 4 man front that Jonathan Gannon runs out there.
Nope. It's shit. And the way they've been running it for a long time, and we talked about this in the beginning of the season, is that they want to put a 5-man front out there on first down. And if they hold them to less than 3 yards, then they put out a 4-man front. The problem is that teams have started running on them on second down 8 or more, and they're picking up a lot of yards doing it. And then it's always in third and short situations afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the obvious one. Kind of stop Derrick Henry. The Titans again not that efficient run the ball, but they're going to do it a lot, and Derrick Henry is going to be the go-to guy. Treylon Burks has been pretty good for the Titans lately. I think that's kind of the other guy you got to stop. What show favorite? Everyone knows if you follow me. I'm a big Treylon Burks guy. He's picked up the pace the last couple of games, so I do think this is probably the biggest mismatch of the game is the Eagles secondary against the Titans offensive weapons. So I do think there's like a very good chance, and what they have to do in a very likely scenario is they have to blanket these guys.
Like they have to absolutely dominate them.
Yeah, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Treylon Burks, Austin Hooper. The Titans playmakers can't make plays on you. You got to shut them down if you want to win this football game. And I do think they're good. I think there's a good chance they can do that. And they've got the personnel to do it.
They need to know in this game that Jonathan Gannon's going to have to scheme against Derrick Henry. And that involves more people in the box.
Mm-hmm.
So for once, the DBs have to be on an island. You can't put extra safety or extra DBs out there to stop Derrick Henry. Like this is the game where you go, I have faith in Bradbury and Slay and Josiah Scott, I guess. And like I have faith in you guys to play man with no help over the top and win us in that area. Take care of that, and we got to stop the run. And if they can't take if they can't do that, if they can't stop the passing offense of the Titans consistently with the game plan going in here is being Derrick Henry, then that's bad. Like that is really poor. That's a warning sign if you can't do that.
The other thing is too, like just another kind of aspect to the Titans offense is Ryan Tannehill has sneakily played pretty well this year. It kind of caught me off guard. He is 10th in EP per play out of all quarterbacks. He's only thrown 1 interception in his last 6 games. So like forcing turnovers, which has been a huge key to the Eagles' kind of success on defense. I don't know how much that's going to be there this game. You're going to have to just get them off the field. So like pass breakups, incompletions, like getting sacks. Like I don't know how many turnovers are going to be kind of on the plate here for this Eagles defense. So again, this is like what I've been talking about. The matchups kind of lean Titans in most ways, but there's certain kind of dominant matchups that the Eagles have, like secondary, Eagles wide receivers. So like they've got to win those matchups and maybe somewhat cause a turnover to passes, something like that. But yeah, I don't think I've got anything else in the matchup. What do you think? We've already talked about the injuries. I think I've went through all my notes.
And we kind of hit on the same. Like this is the time of year where you like show us something. Show us you're for real. Yeah. Like this is the game to do it. You're at the link. It's an early game. Like you don't have to show anything in prime time here. Go out.
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I agree to a sentiment. Like I think this is we're gonna not learn a lot about this Eagles team, but this is gonna be like if they lose, the whole freaking national media is gonna be like, oh my god, this team's not for real, and I don't believe that. I kind of went into this game thinking that the Eagles, there's a good chance Eagles could lose this game and still be fine. Like I don't think a loss here dictates the season, but just from the matchup perspective, like if you want to be a great team, this is a game that you probably should win.
Yeah,
And
and to me, there are three games in this season. Also looking back, of course, in hindsight, there are three games that really defines how good the Eagles are going to be this season. The first one was the Vikings game at home in prime time. Then you have this game at home against a really well coached Titans team, maybe the best coached team in the league, and
Christmas,
then Christmas against
yeah,
Cowboys in Dallas. Those are the three primary games. They took care of Vikings handily, thoroughly beat them, didn't stand a chance. Now you got the Titans. Like you have a chance to really show that you can win big against a really good team. And then come Dallas. And we'll see when they go to Dallas if that's actually a game they have to win or if it's basically just meh. But I mean, this is the kind of game that they're going to have to win.
how good do you think Dallas is?
I think they're winning despite of Dak Prescott. Like I don't think Dak Prescott is playing really well football right now. They're scheming a lot of easy plays in for him with a lot of play action dump offs to tight ends in the flat. Like he's making 2 or 3 throws per game that are like difficult throws, and he makes those. Credit to him, but he also throws like terrible interceptions. Has 5 picks in 5 games. Like he makes mistakes, he makes turnovers, and if the defense has an off day, like they're carrying that team. If the defense has an off day, they can easily be beat, in my opinion.
The Cowboys and 49ers are getting a ton of love on sports books. I was checking at some odds today. The Eagles are third to win the NFC behind Dallas and 49ers right now. You got that little bit of an underdog aspect to this
Yeah, that's
10-1
perfect.
Eagles team right now. That's pretty funny.
Right. Like
Um,
that's what happens when you go close against the Colts and all that, and that like the analytics will say. But basically, all that matters is that they've been winning these games, and they're in the single spot, like the solo spot. They're at the top of the NFC. That's the only thing that matters.
okay. I wanted to ask you this question before we kind of get to predictions here. I was thinking about this last night. Let's say the
Uh
season
oh.
ends. Let's say the season ends today. Okay, let's say before the Tennessee Titans game. Let's say the 10-1 Eagles are going into the playoffs. What do you think people will remember this season as? Like, what's the biggest storyline of this 10-1 Eagles team right now?
Hmm. I think it would be the Jalen Hurts MVP type season.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of up there with yeah, I don't want to say Carson Wentz 2000 like 2017, but it's kind of in that area. You know what I mean? Like they're in that like in the Super Bowl season, they were also winning close games, but they won them and they shut teams out in like on last drives by chewing up the clock. You remember like they had that three-headed monster there with Blunt and Jai and Clement, and like it weren't always pretty. Like they shut some teams out, like the Denver Broncos, where they scored big on them. But like they had a bunch of games that were down to the wire.
Mhm.
I kind of get that same type of vibe with this team. Like they're winning games. They're not always doing it in the most handly fashion, but they're getting the lead in times where they can chew out the clock in the end. And then you have the occasional big plays like or big wins like that. But I think like the same way Carson Wentz was kind of like if you say the 2017 season before the Eagles went into the playoffs and there to win the Super Bowl. Before that, you would have said Carson Wentz MVP type season. I think it's kind of the same with Jalen Hurts right now.
Yep. I think the answer is probably like in between Jalen Hurts' MVP season and everything's just hit for the offseason that the Howie Roseman had. Like there hasn't like
True.
any like everything that he did kind of has turned to gold. And it's kind of like the anti-dream team, if that makes sense. Like everything went wrong that year, everything has went right this year. I just thought though I wanted to mix that question in before
Yeah,
we
I
go.
think I mean, that's very fair. I mean, you can kind of compare Patrick Robinson type to like the James Bradbury, like a guy who's been like had really bad season the past few years before joining the team, and then like playing lights out and one of the best cornerbacks in the league.
Prediction time.
You want to go first, or am I?
Yeah, go first.
All right. I um I think I'm a little bit collared by the way the past few games have been going. I think the Titans are extremely well coached. I think Derrick Henry will be too big of a test against a defensive scheme that I despise. And I'm going Titans 28, Eagles 24.
Predicted an L, baby.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know the
Eagle.
problem is that do you remember when when we previewed the Washington game?
Did you pick an L that you did pick an L that game, right?
I
Or you were
didn't pick
worried
an
about it?
L, but I was worried about the game. It
Yeah.
was like, nah, I can't be worried about this game. Like, we were looking forward to
I
the
was
Titans game. I
so
was like,
yeah.
they
You
won because
were
of something very different. Like I said, the like if Washington can shut down the Eagles running game, and Taylor Heineke can throw a bunch of deep passes for Terry McLaurin, yada yada, and that was not that was exactly what they didn't do. They just ran down the clock all the way through. But I had a really bad feel. I don't have a bad feeling about the Titans game because the Titans are a much better team. I just think that they're a better coached team than the Eagles, and they have a rushing attack that I don't think the Eagles can stop. Then they can chew out the clock. They can make extremely long drives, end them with touchdowns, and I think Rabel is going to have a defense prepared for Hurts that is going to get him off the spot.
so Eagles 4.5 point favorites. The spread opened at 6, which I thought was way too high. So it's been down to 4.5.
That was crazy.
Better starting to hammer the Titans. The Titans are a very funny team this year. Like if you just take a look at like from the beginning, like they lost to the Giants on opening day. Then they got absolutely stomped by the Bills. I think it was Sunday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. I can't remember exactly. Monday Night Football actually might have been 41-7. Since then, they've been on a huge roll here. They had a 5-game win streak mixed in there. But the one thing the Titans haven't done is beat good teams this year. And I know you can kind of maybe say the same thing about the Eagles, but the Titans and the 7 wins, only one of them was against a winning record, a team with a winning record, and that was against the Carson Wentz led Commanders. So you can say like they haven't. This is probably their biggest test. But I'm going to agree with you, man. I think a loss is coming. I'm not going to kind of turn away from what I've been saying all year. I pinpointed this game as a loss on the Eagles schedule. Having said that, I don't think a loss is like a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Like I think they can afford a loss here and rebound and play well going forward. Like it's not the end of the world if they lose this football game.
We'll see how they lose it, but yeah, I agree with you to an extent.
I think this is going to be a very ugly game for the Eagles offense. I think they're going to struggle. I think the Titans offense is also going to struggle. I think this is going to be a gross December 1st football game at the link. Not a ton of points. Hammer the under. The total is 44.5. I don't think it comes close to that. I'm going to go with a 14-10 Titans win. An absolute grease fest at the link.
So the same differential as me. Yep.
Yeah.
4 points. Yep. I can see the scenario, right? The Titans are up by 4 and the Eagles get the ball back in the end. They have to go drive down and score and they don't do it.
Or like the Titans, like the Eagles need to get the Titans offense off the field. Derrick Henry.
Right.
Yeah,
that would be absurd if they came out running the ball there on the last drive. That would be like if they win the game by Derrick Henry running the ball in the fourth quarter on a game-winning drive.
It's a very likely scenario. Like
so
I can definitely see that happen. All right. Anything else you want to throw in before we get out of here?
Nah, this is a good one. We need to recap this one. We need to find time to recap this
100%.
game.
Monday, Tuesday. I'm definitely down. We got to talk about this game. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be awesome. This is I know 14-10 doesn't sound awesome like I predicted, but I think it's just like a really cool matchup on both sides of the ball. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Make sure to check out my episode with Colleen Wolfe, interviewed NFL Network host for Thursday.
Super awesome.
She's awesome. The best, one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. Make sure to check her out. That interview. If you want to win some money, weekend wagers is coming later. So if you want to check out some gambling odds, I'm actually going to jump in on that episode. We're going to break down some of the Week 13 games because this week is just stacked. I could not preview some of these games like Bengal. I'm so pumped for Bengals, Chiefs, and we're not going to be able to watch the Dolphins 49ers game because it's going to be Eagles are going to be on at 1. So focus is going to be fully be there. But Bengals, Chiefs at 4:00 is just a really cool game as well. So awesome Week 13 coming ahead. Make sure to check out our sponsors, True Classic and BetterHelp. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.